Hello and a very good Shabbos to everyone. Today, Erev Shabbos of the Pasha of Vayakhel, is truly a wonderful day in the lives of myself and my wife, Rebbe Meleki, as we celebrate today the birth of our fifth grandchild. And it's the month of Adar. And the month of Adar is a month of joy. And just as we have been blessed with this great joy, I wish you too, every one of you, joy in your own families, especially in this, the happiest of all months. In the Parshas, in the sections of the Torah that we've been reading about over the last few weeks and will continue to read about this week and next week, we've been discussing in great detail the building of the Mishkan, the sanctuary to God which the Israelites made in the wilderness. Now the obvious question is, it's been 2,000 years since we've seen a temple. It's been 3,500 years since we saw that sanctuary in the wilderness. And yet we still read about it in all of its architectural detail, with what was placed where, what did you see when you went here, and what is the relevance to me? Well, immediately at the very beginning of these Parshiot, we find an expression in the Torah which says, "Ba'asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'socham," that you shall make for me a sanctuary that I will dwell amongst them. And the Holy Shalom, Rabbi Yeshaya Horowitz, a very great Kabbalist, he says, hold on a second, it should have said, make me a sanctuary that I shall dwell in it. Why does it say, make me a sanctuary that I shall dwell amongst them? And he says, in truth, the sanctuary is not only that which was built in the wilderness 3,500 years ago. The sanctuary is not only that which was built in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. Rather, the sanctuary is something which is built amongst them, amongst each and every Jew. For the lives and homes of every Jew need to reflect the reality of that sanctuary in the wilderness. Now, the truth of the matter is that it is not only Jews who understood the centrality of the sanctuary. Everyone's heard of Sir Isaac Newton, that great physicist who several hundred years ago discovered gravity, made discoveries in optics, gave us calculus and the various laws of motion. What few people know, however, is that that same Sir Isaac Newton, or as I shall call him, Reb Yitzchak, wrote a whole treatise on the temple in all of its architectural details. And he explained that he believed that if you could understand the secret of the temple, you would be able to understand the world. For the temple is the architectural map of the entire world. Today, I will explain why the temple is the architectural map of our own homes. The central, the most innermost part of the temple was the Holy of Holies. And when you walked into the Holy of Holies, what did you see? You saw the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant, which contained 2 tablets of stone. But on top of this Ark, what you found were 2 cherubs. The image of a young boy and the image of a young girl facing each other in embrace. And what did this signify? It signified the love of God and the Jewish people. The male cherub represented God, the female cherub represented the Jewish people, and there they were, in the Holy of Holies, in this holy embrace. And so too in our own homes. The most central and important thing in the home is the love, the deep love, the pure love, which exists between husband and wife. But for this love to survive, it has to be built on firm and solid foundations. And what are those solid foundations? The Ark of the Covenant. The Ark which contained within it the 2 tablets of stone. Because central to the Jewish home has to be the understanding that everything is based on God's law, on God's covenant with the Jewish people, and that all that we do should be informed by His holy Torah. So these are the first and most central principles of the Jewish home, as they were the first and most central principles of the temple. The love that must exist between husband and wife, based on the foundations of our holy Torah, the tablets of stone, the Ark of the Covenant. When you went a little outside of the Holy of Holies, then you found on your right side, as you were walking backwards from the Holy of Holies, you found the menorah. And the menorah had 7 branches. But it had 7 branches, all hewed from one piece of pure gold. They were not allowed to be soldered together, welded together, but rather there was one piece of gold which was fashioned into 7 branches. And this, in fact, represents the relationship between the parents and their children, and the children and each other. On the one hand, everyone has to be an individual. Everyone has to have a separate branch. Everyone's got their unique qualities, everyone's got their unique talents, everyone's got their unique mission. But they never forget that they're one and part of a family. That deeper than that which divides them is that which unites them. And they cultivate care, concern, and love of each other. Separate, yes. Their own missions and talent, yes. But all part, and deeply part, of one family. Opposite the menorah, there was a table. And what does the table represent? The table represents parnasa, making a living, contained on it bread. Holy bread which remained miraculously fresh from one end of the week to the next end of the week. And what this signifies is that it's not enough that a person's relationships with his spouse, that the relationships within the family are beautiful and holy, but rather that the way you make your bread, the way you go out there in the world in order to make a livelihood, also has to be infused with holiness. There cannot be any cheating, theft, disrespect. You can't achieve greatness by standing on the heads of those beneath you. How you make your bread out in the world is as important as how you live your life within your family. There are those who say, I used to say this in Germany during the assimilationist 19th century, be a Jew in your home, but be a regular human being in the streets. Judaism doesn't accept that. Judaism believes that the way you are in your home has to be the way you are in the street. The way you treat your family must be the same way that you deal with making your bread. That too must be holy. Finally, if you took another step backwards, you would find that there was an altar, a golden altar, in which incense was brought. The purpose of this altar was to atone for sins. Unfortunately, it's part of the human condition to have ups and downs, to do wrong and then to atone for them. It's also part of the human being, a condition to have good times and bad times, whether spiritually bad times or physically bad times. And it's important to know that just as the altar atones for the bad times and transforms those sins, so to speak, into mitzvahs, similarly also all the negative events that we experience in our lives ultimately are also part of our mission, and they bring us to atonement and they bring us to purity. So let no one say that, look, we didn't manage to be able to get that peak of perfection of love represented by the cherubs based on the foundations of the Torah. We didn't manage to be able to forge those deep bonds within our families as represented by the menorah. We didn't manage to be able to live in making a living with the same level of integrity and love that we lived in our own homes. And therefore, what are we worth? There is the menorah. There is atonement. There is forgiveness. There's always a way of making things up and making them better. And in so doing, creating a home which should truly be an abode for God, as represented by the altar. I'd like to wish all of you a good Shabbos, and may you in fact find meaning in your lives and meaning in your homes.